Okay, I'm going to get started by just welcoming everyone. Welcome to Wat Tung. Nice to see all of you guys here this morning. Welcome to anyone joining us online as well. Today is what's called our Pali Canon and English study group, which I'll explain to you guys what that is a bit later. We start each one of our classes with meditation. So if you'd like to join for meditation, I'll guide you in meditation. Because what the Buddha did during his lifetime is he taught people how to get to enlightenment. What enlightenment is where the mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. By the time you get to enlightenment, you no longer experience any discontent feelings. All the anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy, all these feelings in others are eliminated from the mind. And this comes through training of the mind. You'll notice that the mind's more focused and concentrated. You'll have clarity and deep memory. Your personal and professional relationships will be really blossoming. They'll be at ease because you're not being bitter and harsh and hostile any longer in your relationships. You can get to the point where you're not even in a bad mood. And again, this comes through training of the mind. There's no belief in the teachings of the Buddha. It's not about rites or rituals or ceremonies or worship. It's about actually training your mind and uprooting the causes and conditions that are producing these discontent feelings in the mind. So if you'd like to join for meditation, the way that I do this is I start with some chanting to ease us into the meditation. There's some chants on laminated sheets over there on the cabinet. You're welcome to help yourself to chant along if you like. You're going to see the Pali language and you're going to see the English translations as well. And if you look at these chants, you're going to see a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha. Yeah, you guys are welcome to help yourself. Those of you guys online, you can actually get these chants by going to our website, which is buddhadailywisdom.com. You can click on free books and then scroll down towards the bottom and you'll actually see these daily chanting sheets. So these chants, you'll see a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha in these chants. And because of that, I don't think the Buddha actually taught these himself. They probably were created by his students, either during his life or after his death. Because if you learned from a teacher how to move from the anger and sadness and frustration to the peace and joy that is the enlightened mental state, and this teacher didn't want anything from you or expect anything from you, you'd probably have a lot of respect and gratitude for that person too. So I think that these chants actually came from his students, either during his life or after his death. Because the way that the Buddha used chanting during his lifetime is it was used as a learning tool that he would teach orally, and then every 2 weeks his students would come together and they would recite his teachings through chanting. So you can see from the origins of chanting that there isn't any rite or ritual or ceremony or worship. It's not prayer or anything like that. During the lifetime of the Buddha, it was used purely to help people remember his teachings because the technology to write things down didn't exist in that region of the world 2,500 years ago. So they used it in order to commit the teachings to memory. We don't need to chant in order to commit the teachings to memory any longer. Instead, we have books and audiobooks, videos, podcasts, things like this. So we don't need to chant in order to remember the teachings, but I still chant because it helps you to get more benefit out of the meditation as you're easing into the meditation. So if you'd like to chant along, you're more than welcome to. After the chanting, I'm going to come in with some guidance where I'll be instructing you and guiding you in the meditation as we're actually meditating together. Then there's going to be a period of time where it's just quiet. We're just all meditating together. Those of us here and anybody joining online, we'll just all be meditating at the same time. Now, I suspect during that period of time of quiet, you're going to hear sounds because you can't be in an environment where it's permanently quiet. So if you hear a car go by or a bird chirping or a dog barking, maybe someone sneezes or coughs, this is all completely normal because you can't be in an environment where it's permanently quiet. If your mind craves permanent quietness, when you hear a sound during the meditation, you'll be annoyed or you'll be frustrated or agitated. But it's your own mind that's causing that because your mind is craving permanence when you live in an impermanent world. So during this period of time of quiet, you can know that there's going to most likely be sounds that arise, that change, and they fade away. After the period of time where we're all meditating together, we'll come out of the meditation with some more chanting. And that's where I'll start today's class, helping you understand what the Pali Canon and English study group is. In terms of your body position for meditation, the Buddha taught 4 positions. He taught seated, lying, standing, and walking. And you would use these different positions at different times for different reasons, and you would learn them over the course of your journey to enlightenment. But oftentimes students are learning in the seated position. So I'll give you some guidance on the seated position to be able to help you find something that's more comfortable perhaps. There isn't just one fixed way to sit. You can sit however you like, because all of us have different types of bodies. We're going to find different things to be comfortable. So what I share with you are just suggestions that you might consider, so you can find whatever is comfortable for you. Even if it's something I don't teach, you are welcome to sit however you like. So people oftentimes will sit on the floor or in a chair. If you're at home, you might be on a bench or a sofa or in a wheelchair. You can sit however you're comfortable. It's not about everyone sitting exactly the same way. But if you're on the floor, you might have some cushions under your rear. This will kind of soften your seat a bit. And then if you're going to bring your legs together in the cross leg position, you like to do that just lightly. Whereas if they're real tight, it can impede the circulation and cause pain in the lower body. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets the hips up in the air, and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles. So you might find that to be comfortable. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. But again, it's not about everyone doing it exactly the same way. You may or may not find that to be comfortable. So some people like to put their palms on their thighs or on their knees. Some people put their palms up. Some people rest their hands comfortably in their lap. So you can do whatever is comfortable for you. And then for anybody who's maybe on a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair and any kind of sitting device like that, you can also sit however you're comfortable. Some people like to put their feet flat on the floor or lightly crossed at the ankles, but you can see me sitting in a chair here with my legs crossed, so that's an option for you as well. And then you can put your hands and arms wherever you're comfortable. It's helpful if the upper body is erect with the sternum up and the shoulders back. This will keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation, whereas if you were slouched, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. But if you were real rigid, the mind could be overactive or uptight. Meditation is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities from the mind and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities in the mind. So you would like the mind to be attentive and alert during the meditation. So having the sternum up and the shoulders back will help the mind stay attentive and alert during your meditation. It also makes it easy for you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So if you'd like to join in for the chanting, I'm going to start that now. You're welcome to join in, and then I'm going to come back with the guidance for the meditation after the chanting. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakava Wat Tung Mahakavanhang Apivateyami Sawakato Mahakavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Sawaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato. In and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start focusing the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath. And out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakawa Wat Tung Mahakawanhang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakawata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Mahakawa Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakato Rokavitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusanang Bhutto Bhagavati. Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome to everyone here at the temple. Welcome to everyone who's joining us online as well. Nice to see everyone this morning. I'm going to share with you guys just a little bit about the teachings of the Buddha before we get into the Pali Canon and English study group. The teachings of the Buddha are designed to help you get to the enlightened mental state where you can experience complete peace, calm, serenity, and contentedness with joy. The Buddha discovered 10 individual pollutions in the mind that when you train your mind and you uproot these out of the mind, that's what's going to produce the peace and the joy. As long as you have these pollutions in your mind, you're going to find that you lack concentration, focus, clarity of mind, and memory. You'll notice that you have certain challenges in relationships, maybe with your parents or your siblings, maybe your life partner, your boss, your coworkers, people like this, that your mind's going to have these wants and expectations, wanting things to be a certain way. And when you get things your way, you feel happy or excited. You get pleasant feelings when things are going your way. But when you don't get things your way, the mind experiences anger or sadness or frustration. Oftentimes people think that the anger and frustration and all these other discontent feelings are being caused by other people, but it's actually your own mind that's causing these feelings. As long as you go around thinking that it's other people that are causing you to be angry and frustrated, you'll never actually solve it, because you can't train 8 billion people in the world to do things your way. The way the unenlightened mind works is due to its lack of wisdom. It firmly believes that other people are causing you to be angry or sad or frustrated or some other discontent feeling. That again, if the mind gets what it wants, if it gets what it expects, there's certain laws longing, yearning. The mind wants things to be a certain way, and the mind's craving permanence, wanting things to be a certain way permanently. And when the mind gets that, it gets happy or excited or elated. But that feeling is basically impermanent, because you can't experience permanent happiness based on some condition. So if you get really happy or excited when it's sunny outside, that sun is not permanent. So that means that your happiness is not permanent either. It's going to fade away. Or if you get really happy when your bank account balance is up here, that means when it goes down here, you get sad or frustrated or annoyed. That's because of the impermanent nature of the world. The mind is craving permanence and wanting things to be a certain way permanently. And now the mind doesn't understand impermanence, that everything around you is constantly changing. So as long as you have this longing, yearning, wanting, expecting things to be a certain way, in some cases you'll get happy and excited, you'll get pleasant feelings, but in other cases you'll get painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, and others. So the Buddha is teaching you through his teachings and guiding you in a way that you can train your mind to get to the point where there's just complete peace and complete joy. But it comes through cultivating wisdom and through training of the mind to let go. There's no belief in the teachings of the Buddha. You're not believing a bunch of things and hoping something good happens when you die. There aren't any rites or rituals or ceremonies or worship in his teachings or prayer. If you've been exposed to these kinds of things and they've been associated with the teachings of the Buddha, those aren't the teachings of the Buddha, because the Buddha never taught any of those things. He taught you to train your mind and uproot these pollutions, which will bring more peace and more joy into the mind. And you can see that this is occurring because as you're training your mind slowly but surely, you'll see that there's more peace and more joy coming into the mind. Because there'll be certain situations where you used to get angry and frustrated and agitated, and you'll be in those same situations, and now you'll see that the mind's quite peaceful and quite joyful in those situations. So we have various programs here to be able to help you learn these teachings and guide you in understanding them so that you can gradually train your mind. And the place where a lot of students will start is with this first book. It's called Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Enlightenment. And we have a program that meets each Sunday and Wednesday that's going to gradually walk you through this over a 7-month period, where I go chapter by chapter each Sunday. And we just restarted this program from the very beginning, so it's an excellent time to join this program. And it's all available for you at no cost. You can get the books by downloading them for free. You can take it and go print it if you like. You can get printed versions here by reimbursing us for our printing cost, or you can order them on Amazon. And all the classes, courses, and programs are at no cost as well. You can even get personal guidance with me at no cost, and I'll be able to help you and guide you on your journey to enlightenment. It's you that needs to do the work in order to train your mind and choose that this is what you're interested in. If you're tired of broken relationships, if you're tired with all the anger and the arguments and the stress and the anxiety, the teachings of the Buddha are here for you to be able to help you to be able to get past all of that and get to the point where you can have complete peace and complete joy. But each person needs to decide that that's what they're interested in doing. And then if you're interested in that, there's help for you to be able to do that. So this group learning program and some of the other programs are where people will typically start in their journey to enlightenment, understanding the foundational teachings. And then as they build that framework or that structure to understand the teachings of the Buddha, they will come into a program like this that I teach on Saturdays called the Pali Canon in English Study Group, where it kind of fills in your framework and helping you to understand more fully what the Buddha taught. In this book series, we have 13 books, and all of our foundational programs I teach out of volume 1. And in this program, I teach volumes 2 through 13. So today, we're actually in volume 11 of this book series. This book is titled The Realms of Existence. This is where you're learning about the hell realm, the animal realm, the afflicted spirit realm, the human realm, and the heavenly realm. All of these things are not based in belief. The Buddha actually taught these things, and you can independently verify them. He taught these different realms of existence for a reason, because what the Buddha is doing is he's teaching you the way the world is. And by you understanding the way the world is, then your mind cultivates wisdom about this world and you can navigate it more peacefully. Whereas if you don't understand the world around you, you will struggle and you will have difficulties. That's what the anger and the sadness and the stress and the anxiety is. It's the mind having struggles and difficulties living in a world that it doesn't understand. So one of the aspects of this world is that there are these 5 realms of existence which can be independently verified. And if you started having experiences with beings in these realms and you didn't understand that this is the way the world is, it could actually shake you up. Because some people can actually see these beings, even though some of them are formless, like hell beings, afflicted spirits, which are like ghosts, and heavenly beings. They don't have physical form. That some people can actually see these beings. And if you saw like a ghost and you didn't understand, like, oh, this is normal, you could be shaken up by that. You could maybe have fear that arises. Or some people can actually hear communication from these beings. And once again, if you didn't understand that this is normal, it could really shake you up. You could think that you're going crazy. Some people observe their past lives and have vivid memories of their past lives, like being murdered or something like this. And if you didn't understand that recurring thoughts in your mind about being murdered is from a past life, it could really shake you up in this life. So the Buddha is teaching you all these different things about the world in order to be able to help you awaken to the wisdom of the way the world is so that you can then navigate it more peacefully. If you think back to when we were children, we didn't understand the way the world was. We didn't understand the natural law of gravity. And this is why we struggled and we had difficulties. We fell down, we hit our head, we busted our elbows, we broke our toys, and we cried and cried and cried because we didn't understand the world we lived in. But slowly but surely, we gained wisdom of this natural law of gravity, and now we fully understand it. You could say that we fully awoke to the natural law of gravity. And having done so, we now navigate the world more peacefully. We look at the surface of the sidewalk. We tie our shoes a little bit tighter. We stopped being so giddy, bouncing around as a kid. Now we can ride bicycles, we can climb ladders, we can get on airplanes and fly all over the world because we fully understand the natural law of gravity. We never believed in the natural law of gravity. We saw the truth for ourselves. Like if you try to test it, it's like, wow, there's the natural law of gravity right there. I can actually see it for myself. There's no belief in this natural law whatsoever. So the teachings of the Buddha are the same way. It's important not to believe any of his teachings, even these realms of existence. That what you're going to see me share with you in the Pali Canon English study group is starting this particular book and moving through the realms of existence. The Buddha is going to be teaching you about these different things, but you should never believe in these things, and you should never have any fear or guilt or shame about these things, about the hell realm, the afflicted spirit realm, or the heavenly realm. That's not why the Buddha is teaching it to you. He's teaching it to you so you understand that as you're training your mind and you're removing this pollution and you start having these experiences where you have vivid memories of past lives, or you see formless beings, or you hear communication from them, you'll understand that it's normal and it's part of everyday life, and you don't need to be shaken up by that. So what I'm going to share with you here is not where someone will typically start their journey to enlightenment. Again, we're in volume 11 in this particular program. And if you're brand new, which I know many of you are, you just coming in for the first time, and maybe you just were interested in a little bit of meditation, that's fine. But just understand this isn't where someone will typically start, but it's okay because you'll learn plenty from being here today. And then if you'd like to join some of our other programs, you're more than welcome to, because I teach them here at the temple, and I also live stream them throughout the world. So as you travel, as you go back to your home country, you can join us live through YouTube, Facebook, Zoom, and all these other options. If you'd like to learn how to eliminate your anger and sadness and frustration and things like this, there's core central teachings that the Buddha taught that are going to guide you in how to do that. So the way the Pali Canon and English Study Group works is I have these individual chapters that I invite students here at the temple, or those of you guys that are in Zoom, to volunteer to read these chapters. And these chapters are pretty short. This particular one, I'm going to start with chapter 13 today. Typically I start with, like, today would normally be 11, but 11 and 12 are something that I think it's better to start with chapter 13. I'll ask for volunteers here at the temple, or those of you in Zoom. And if you'd like to volunteer to read this, you can. And then after somebody reads it, then I'll share some teachings on it. And then I'll open up to any and all questions that you guys have related to it. it's a very short chapter. It's just kind of like about a half a page I'm going to have you read. It's actually a longer chapter, but I'm just going to have you read the first part. This first page actually is if anybody volunteers to read this one. If you would like to volunteer to read, all you need to do here is get a microphone. We have microphones in the white bowl. Just press the gray button. You'll see the lights come on. You hold it up to your chin, and we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online. And then you can keep these microphones with you, because you might have a question, or someone around you might have a question, and you can share the microphone. If you speak here without a microphone, they won't be able to hear you online. So it's important to use a microphone. And then when you're not using it, if you could just turn it off, then we won't get feedback from the speakers. And if there's anyone in Zoom that would like to volunteer to read, you can electronically raise your hand, unmute your microphone, and then we'll be able to hear you here at the temple and throughout the live stream. And then when we get to the question period, again, if you guys could use the microphones here, and then online, you could put your questions into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like. So is there anybody that would like to read this first chapter? I'll show you guys how this study group typically works. Yeah, Steve, go ahead. So typically I'm teaching in a more traditional style, where I'll teach like 15, 20, 30 minutes, and I'll open up for questions. But in this particular program, we do it more as a study group. So please, Steve.
5 destinations and similes of destination. Sariputta, there are these 5 destinations. What are the 5? Hell, the animal realm, the realm of afflicted spirits, human realm, and heavenly realm. I understand hell and the path and way leading to hell, and I also understand how one who has entered this path will, on the dissolution of the body after death, reappear in a state of deprivation, in an unhappy destination, in perdition, in hell. I understand the animal realm and the path and the way leading to the animal realm, and I also understand how one who has entered this path will, on the dissolution of the body after death, reappear in the animal realm. I understand the realm of afflicted spirits and the path of the way leading to the realm of afflicted spirits. And I also understand how one who has entered this path will, on the dissolution of the body after death, reappear in the realm of afflicted spirits. I understand the human realm and the path and way leading to human realm. And I also understand how one who has entered this path will, on the dissolution of the body after death, reappear among human beings. I understand the heavenly realm and the path and way leading to the heavenly realm. And I also understand how one who has entered this path will, on the dissolution of the body after death, reappear in a happy destination in the heavenly realm. I understand Nibbana, enlightenment, and the path and way leading to Nibbana, enlightenment. And I also understand how one who has entered this path will, by realizing for himself with direct knowledge, experience, here and now, enter upon and reside in the liberation of mind and liberation by wisdom that are taintless with the destruction of the taints.
Okay, thank you, Steve. So this is a chapter that is essentially defining that, hey, there's these 5 realms. This is what the Buddha taught. You're going to see lots of different misinformation in the world, because it's been 2,500 years from the death of the Buddha, and people have changed his teachings over the years, either inadvertently or overtly have changed his teachings. So you'll see people that'll teach 6 realms, 9 realms, 32 realms, all these different things. But this is his original teachings. It's from the Pali Canon. The Pali Canon is 45 large volumes of books that are this thick, and this is the largest, most complete collection that we have of the teachings of the Buddha. So this goes back to that particular source, and I have the reference for that in each one of these books. So you can see here that he taught 5 realms. No matter what anybody else ever says or shares with you, he taught 5 realms, and you can actually independently verify this. Depending on what your experiences have been in life, there's people that have been able to have interaction with hell beings. Of course, you've had many interactions with animals because they're physical beings. You've seen them many times. Afflicted spirits, or what we would call ghosts. Some people have had that experience. You've had plenty of interaction with people in the human realm. You're actually human, so you know that that one exists. And then there's people that have had interaction in the heavenly realm with beings that are in the heavenly realm. So none of these realms are permanent. These are all impermanent. There's something called the universal truth of impermanence, where things are constantly changing in the world. This is a universal truth. It's part of the natural laws, and you can verify it for yourself. You can see that your body is constantly changing, your relationships are constantly changing, your bank account's constantly changing, the weather's constantly changing, everything around you is constantly changing. This is called impermanence. There isn't any permanence in the world around you with material things, and none of these realms are actually permanent, even though sometimes people teach that they are. There isn't anybody who's sending you to one of these realms. It's our own decisions that choose where we're going in our life, and we can escape out of this continuous cycle of being reborn over and over and over again, but it's up to us to train our mind to be able to experience that. So based at the condition of the mind at the time of death, it will determine whether we go to be reborn in one of these realms or not. And we've all been reborn countless times. Right now, you might be believing that this is your first life, or you might believe that you only have one life. But as you start training your mind and you start lifting this pollution out of your mind, there's the potential that you will have memories from your past lives. And if you have that, you'll know with 100% certainty that you've had past lives. But there's other ways to verify the cycle of rebirth too. In this book, this Realms of Existence book, in volume 11, chapter 105, I give you 17 different criteria of how to independently verify the cycle of rebirth. And you probably don't have the wisdom of how to do that right now, but you can gain that wisdom of how to independently verify it. Because as long as you believe that you just have one life, you might take it for granted. You might be complacent during this life. You might kind of throw it away and not really put real effort into it to be able to develop and grow and become a better and better person. Because that's what the path to enlightenment is to become a better and better person. In the unenlightened state, we do a lot of unwise things, a lot of unwholesome things, and it leads to unwholesome results in our life. This is called karma, or the results of our decisions. When we make decisions wisely, we'll experience wholesome karma, or wholesome results. When we make decisions unwisely, we will experience unwholesome karma, or unwholesome results. And with a lack of wisdom of this natural law of karma, or some people call it karma, then you will tend to make unwise decisions and you will experience unwholesome results in your day-to-day life. And what people tend to do is they tend to blame what they experience on other people, right? Because it can't be you that's causing the unwholesome things in your life, because the mind's ego is going to want to make you think that you're perfect and all the problems you're experiencing is because of other people. Or sometimes people think that what they're experiencing in their life that is unwholesome is either good luck or bad luck. Or they think that it's destiny or fate, or they might think that it's God or some entity called the universe that is controlling you to experience any particular thing. Or again, people might blame it on other people. But as long as you subscribe to this type of thinking, then you're not able to cultivate wisdom to make better decisions and experience improved results. You're going to just keep experiencing the same things over and over and over again. So if you see similar patterns in your life where you're experiencing the same things over and over and over and over again, this is coming from the decisions that you're making. So as long as you subscribe to thinking it's good luck, bad luck, destiny or fate, God, an entity called the universe, or other people, you're not going to be able to cultivate the wisdom to make different decisions and experience different results. Because if there's anything in your life that you don't particularly care for that is occurring, all you need to do is cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and you will experience different results. And that's what the Buddha is teaching you, is to awaken to this natural law of karma, or some people call it karma. It means cause and effect, or action and result, the results of your decisions. It's not anything mystical or magical. It's not about punishments and rewards. It's not about who's to blame or who's at fault. It's just saying that when there's a decision made, there's going to be an effect. When there's a certain action, there's going to be a result. So every decision you make is going to produce some effect or some result. And as you're going through this life, it's leading one life to the next, to the next, to the next, if you're making decisions in that way. But there is a way for you to make decisions so that you escape this continuous cycle of rebirth. But at the time of death, depending on the condition of your mind, that's what's going to determine which one of these realms that you're reborn into. But the ultimate goal is to escape all of that. Get to the point where your mind's peaceful and joyful in this life. That's one of the unique things about the teachings of the Buddha, is that It's not about believe, and then hope something good happens when you die. It's about learning and growing and developing now in this life to become a better and better person. And you'll be able to see that your life is improving and the condition of your mind is improving. And you'll know that you're headed in the right direction because you see these improvements in your day-to-day life and in the way that your mind is functioning. But should somebody not train their mind, there's going to be rebirth in one of these realms. And that's what the Buddha is saying here, is that, hey, these are the 5 realms. And he's saying he knows the path of how people get to hell. He knows what that is. He knows what it is to be able to get to this animal realm and what someone would do in order to be able to get to that animal realm. Same thing with the afflicted spirit, same thing to the human realm, and same thing to the heavenly realm. But then ultimately his goal is to help you understand this path to enlightenment. Getting to enlightenment, it isn't a physical destination. It's a mental state that you experience in this life. And you can see that your mind is experiencing that because your mind's getting more and more peaceful. When you're going to the point of experiencing peace and joy for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, where you don't see any anger, you don't see any frustration, agitation, or annoyance, or even the slightest dislike in your mind, you'll know that your mind's enlightened. And you'll know it's these teachings that have slowly guided you to that through training the mind. So the Buddha is saying he knows the path and the way to all these realms, but he also knows the path to this enlightened mental state. And you can learn that path and you can train your mind and you can see that it's actually working for yourself through training the mind. And that's the ultimate goal. And what he's saying here is that this path to enlightenment is getting to the point where the mind is taintless, or you've destroyed the taints. A taint is a pollution. So the Buddha is teaching you to eliminate these 10 individual pollutions from the mind. And there's other teachings that he shares that helps you understand what those 10 pollutions are and how to eliminate them. That's what the training of the mind is for. Meditation, and there's other training that the Buddha shares that teaches you how to get rid of these pollutions out of the mind. So I'm going to stop here and see if you guys have any questions on this. This chapter actually goes on, but I decided just for this particular class to be able to read just this first part because I think this is more applicable and something you guys can understand at this point. So do you guys have any questions on this, either here at the temple or online? Let me check if we have anything online. Okay, I don't see any questions anywhere. You have a question, ma'am? Yeah, feel free to get a microphone. And it can be about this chapter, or if it can be anything about the teachings of the Buddha, if you'd like.
I don't understand what is, for example, the path leading to the animal realm.
Yeah, the path leading to the animal realm, you're going to see it here in a moment. The Buddha's going to teach you this very next chapter. That's why these are kind of in this order, where there's certain unwholesome moral conduct that you can do that in order to have that unwholesome moral conduct, there needs to be certain pollutions in the mind. And based on these pollutions of the mind, if you're functioning like an animal in this human world, then you're going to be reborn in the animal realm because you need to burn off your unwholesome karma. So for example, if we were having lots of sex, and we were very promiscuous and going around having sex with lots of people, this is an animalistic behavior. And if there's a human being who's doing that, their mind is still functioning very much like an animal. So therefore, at the end of this life, if their mind's still doing that, they will be reborn into the animal realm, for example. And now they'll have many animal existences to be able to extinguish that craving, that longing, yearning to have sex with lots of different beings. But you're going to see a chapter here in a moment where the Buddha is giving you a lot more details about specific things that will lead to rebirth in the hell realm and in the animal realm as well. Other questions? Yep.
Can you hear me? Yes,
Yep.
okay.
Sure can.
I believe you said, David, that one's destination when this body ends is dependent upon where the mind is at the moment of death.
Mm-hmm.
Is that to say that that's the most important moment? You could be living let's say an unskillful life for your whole lifetime, but if at the moment of death is the real determinant on where you go?
It's not the moment of death, it's the condition of the mind at death. So if you can think about all these different pollutions in the mind, as you're going through life, if you're on this path, you're going to be reducing those pollutions, right? And now based on the status of the mind at death, now there's going to potentially be a rebirth if there's still pollution in the mind. But if you've purified your mind and the mind's completely purified of these pollutions, there's not going to be any rebirth in the cycle of rebirth. So it's not about what you're thinking at the time of death or anything like that. It's more about the status of the mind at death. it just takes
anyway. I also have read or have heard that to have had a human birth is very, 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 very rare. What's your comment about that?
Yeah, the Buddha says the same thing, and I agree. It is very rare. We have all had countless existences in the past, and you may or may not remember those existences right now, but there's the potential that in the future you might. But I can assure you, every single one of us have had countless existences, a lot of them in the animal realm. But getting into this human realm is extremely rare. The Buddha gives an analogy on this and kind of helps you to see how rare it is. He says if the entire world was flooded, meaning the entire earth was flooded with water, and you take this ring and you toss it onto the surface of the earth, surface of the water, and the wind is blowing it all around, all over the surface of the earth, and there's a blind turtle at the bottom of the sea, and it only comes up for air once every 100 years, he says, what's the likelihood of that turtle putting its neck into that ring, that it comes up once every 100 years? He says that's how rare it is that you get into this human life. And he teaches you this so that you don't allow this life to go to waste, that you're not complacent in this life, because oftentimes we are complacent. You know, it's like, I'm just going to drink this alcohol, or I'm just going to be bitter and harsh and hostile, or I'm just going to steal this or lie about this, or any things like this. And we just kind of are complacent, and we don't cultivate the wisdom that we need to be able to become a better and better human being. But just like a lizard or a snake or any of these other beings, they evolve as a species and they become a better and better species. We can do the same thing as human beings. We can evolve to a better and better species where we don't have to experience anger and sadness and frustration. Just like you opt out of an email and you unsubscribe from a YouTube channel, you can opt out of the anger and the sadness and the frustration. You just need to decide that that's what you would like to do and not allow this human life to go to waste. And that's why the Buddha teaches you how rare it is. And it's also the ideal existence, because this heavenly realm, sometimes people are like, oh, I just want to go to heaven. I want to get to heaven. But that's not the ideal existence. Those beings are still in the cycle of rebirth. They still need to get to enlightenment. They haven't escaped anything yet. They're in the heavenly realm, but they can very easily be reborn down into the hell realm, the animal realm, the afflicted spirits, or back to the human realm. And in this heavenly realm, they're experiencing exclusively pleasant feelings. They don't experience painful feelings, or neither painful nor pleasant. So pleasant feelings are like happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, euphoria. The painful feelings are like anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety. Heavenly beings don't experience that, but we do in the human realm. And then there's neither painful nor pleasant feelings. This is like shyness or things like that, or maybe uncomfortableness or dissatisfaction, right? It's not painful, it's not pleasant, it's neither painful nor pleasant. So those painful feelings and the neither painful nor pleasant feelings tend to be motivation for us. They're built-in motivation, because we don't like those painful feelings. We'd like to get away from them. In the heavenly realm, they don't have those, so they tend to be very complacent in the heavenly realm. They don't tend to learn and practice the teachings to escape out of the cycle of rebirth, where beings in the human realm tend to have built-in motivation. But even still, we can be complacent in the human realm as well. In fact, people can just lack wisdom that there's even such a thing as teachings and guidance that will help you eliminate your anger and sadness and frustration. Sometimes people think, well, this is just the human condition. I'm just going to be experiencing this for the rest of my life. And they just kind of resign themselves to thinking that you have to continue to experience anger and frustration and all these other feelings like stress and anxiety for the rest of your life. But I'm here to tell you that you can opt out of this. You can completely escape out of these discontent feelings. You just need to know how to do it. That's the wisdom that is here in Thailand that other parts of the world doesn't necessarily have. And by way of you choosing to come to this place here in Thailand and to this particular temple, you can actually now start to learn and understand what it takes. And then nothing is based in belief and nothing is going to cost you any money. You can gradually learn how to do this. And we do this out of loving kindness and compassion for the world, that we know that people are out there struggling with these discontent feelings and they don't even know there's a solution for it. So it's kind of like discovering the cure to cancer. You know, what would you do if you discovered the cure to cancer? Would you mass market it and sell it to everybody that you could? Or would you go out there and give it to everybody for free, stand on the top of the rooftops and let everybody know that, hey, there's this cure to cancer that you can come experience? So that's what we do with the teachings of the Buddha, is we make them available to everybody and anybody. We don't stand on the rooftops and shout, but we just let everybody know that they're available. So yeah, it's extremely rare to get into this human existence, and that's why it's so important not to allow it to go to waste, because you can just have a very fulfilling and satisfying life if that's what you choose. Because if there's anything about your life that you don't particularly care for right now, you can change it. Right? If you're stressed, if you're having anxiety, if you don't like the environment that you're in for work, if you don't like the friends and the relationships that you're having, you can change all of this, but you need the wisdom of how to do that. And that's where the teachings of the Buddha come in. But it's not necessarily this particular wisdom, right? This is like volume 11. There's things in volume 1 and 2 and 3 and so forth that you really need to start with. And that's what's going to help you gain the wisdom to transform your mind and transform your life. Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
And what about when you see injustice in front of you? Can you still be completely at peace? Or is it healthy to have some unhealthy feelings?
There's no benefit to having anger and frustration and irritation and all these other feelings, because it's just shaking up your mind. And now you're going to make unwise decisions during that period of time that are producing unwholesome results for you. It's uncomfortable for you to feel those feelings. You can get to the point where you're making wise decisions. Oftentimes when people talk about injustice, what they're really talking about is, in their mind, they think a particular thing should have happened, and that particular thing did not happen, and therefore they look at it and they say that's an injustice. Well, the only thing that's really happened is something just didn't meet your expectations. There was a certain want or expectation that a mind might have had, and now they're saying that is an injustice. Where, sure, there's plenty of unwholesome things that are happening in the world. There's a lot of unwise things that are happening in this world. But everything is happening based on this cause and effect, or action and result. It's based on decisions that people are making. Because the human laws that we have in society, they are imperfect, because they're created by human beings. So we can't create, administer, and enforce laws equally amongst all beings. Now, we should always aspire to do that more and more, but because of the nature of human beings and we're prone to error, the natural laws that the Buddha taught, they're functioning perfectly. But the human laws, the laws of society, they are imperfect. So there's going to be things that are happening that are not actually fair or equitable to all people. And that's the way that this world is constructed. That's the impermanent nature of the world. But this natural law of karma, of cause and effect, or action and result, it's functioning perfectly. So, for example, if you have a person who, let's just say their bloody footprint was at the murder scene, the bloody murder weapon was under their bed, they have blood all over their car, and they go to court and they're found not guilty, right? Someone might say that is an injustice, right? Well, no, that person is still going to be experiencing the results of their decisions. They can't escape that, right? So maybe they went to the human court where the laws are not able to be administered in fairly because human beings are involved, right? So this person might have escaped that aspect of the results of their decisions, but they haven't escaped the results of their decisions. They're going to have trouble getting jobs. They're going to have trouble finding employment. They're going to have trouble acquiring wealth and money. They're going to have trouble with their relationships with their friends and family. They're going to have all kinds of difficulties. They're going to have difficulty acquiring basic necessities to sustain life. They can end up having a shorter lifespan because the amount of craving and anger that you would have to kill a human being, that puts a lot of stress in your mind, and that puts stress on the body. So your heart and your lungs and your liver and your bladder and all these different organs that you need in order to sustain your life, they're getting a lot more stress and a lot more wear and tear. And now this person's lifespan is actually probably a lot shorter, right? So there's all kinds of results that this person is experiencing that is the results of their decisions, that it's not just the court and the human law. But oftentimes people don't understand the natural law of karma, so they think like, that person's not guilty, they escaped the consequences of their decisions, but they actually didn't, because the natural law of karma is right there. They're experiencing those consequences. And one of the consequences is rebirth into these different realms. That individual, if they continue to kill and murder, they could easily be reborn into the hell realm, in the afflicted spirit realm, or the animal realm in their next life. And that's part of the results of their decisions. So it's not possible to run and hide from the results of your decisions. You will experience them. But the human laws, they're going to be imperfect at best, right? Because human beings are involved. So you never have to worry about somebody that you think should be guilty and they're found not guilty. You never have to worry, because they're going to experience the results of their decisions. And there's another side to this too. Let's just say that I was in a gang as a kid growing up, and let's just say I was doing all kinds of unwise things. But by the age of like 25, I'm like, you know what? I'm done with this gang. I'm not doing this anymore. And I get out of the gang. And maybe all through my life, I was selling drugs, maybe I was murdering people and stuff like this as part of the gang, but I never got caught for any of that stuff. And I got out of the gang at the age of 25. But now let's just say I'm 26, 27 years old. The gang goes and does a murder, and somehow it gets pinned on me. I wasn't even there. I wasn't even part of that experience and that murder. But now it gets pinned on me, and I go to court and I'm found guilty, even though I didn't do it. Right? This is my karma. This is the results of my decisions, that even though I wasn't there and present at the murder and I'm completely out of the gang, somehow it got pinned on me. And now all those things that I never got caught for, selling drugs and murdering, now I'm having to go to jail for something that I actually didn't do. And now this is the results of my decisions of having participated in the gang for all those years. So you can have people that are found guilty that actually weren't guilty, and they were actually doing other things at other parts in their life that they didn't get held responsible for. So there's all kinds of imperfections in the human laws, but the natural law of karma is going to be functioning all the time, and you're going to experience the results of those. But it's can extinguish your unwholesome karma, but ultimately you're going to experience the results of it in one way or another.
But it's safe to assume that it's not necessarily always a physical or maybe an environmental karmic consequence. I mean, again, our drug dealing murderer found himself in jail for something he didn't actually do. Mm-hmm. I mean, I reflect on my life and I feel immense regret sometimes and remorse, and that some people I've hurt and haven't behaved as I might like to think. I mean, no one's come up and, beaten me up or said, right, you've got to do this or anything. But do you think they're sort of sometimes feeling maybe ashamed and regretful is a karmic consequence to previous things said and done?
Yes, that's part of the karma, is the discontent feelings itself. So like if somebody murdered somebody, let's just say they ran away and the police never caught them at all. That person's still going to have a certain amount of fear. They're going to have a certain amount of shame, a certain amount of stress and anxiety. They're going to have to always be on the run, hiding from the police. They're not going to have a wonderful, peaceful, joyful life. So you're always going to be experiencing the results of your decisions, and part of it is those feelings that are in your mind. So, because by the time you get to enlightenment, you don't experience any of those at all. You'll be experiencing complete peace and joy. But this person who's on the run, hiding from the police for a murder that they did maybe in their teens or their early 20s, they're not going to experience that peace and joy as they're on the run from the police. So yes, that guilt and shame and fear and stress and anxiety, that's part of the karma that you're experiencing. That is the unwholesome karma. Whenever you make decisions through, you've learned craving, anger, and ignorance, it's going to produce unwholesome karma. And part of that is the discontent feelings.
So it's not necessarily to be avoided. I suppose in a way. I mean, I can sit back and think, yeah, it would be quite right and fitting to feel a certain way, sadness or regret over something, a previous thing said or done. So to kind of think, I want to dispel myself of this discomfort, or wouldn't necessarily be the thing. I mean, I've got to sit with it and think, this is the natural cause and effect that the Buddha teaches here. This is how someone who perhaps has done something wrong many years later would sit there and think, this would be the natural cause and effect of it.
So the natural law of karma is the most unbiased teacher you will ever find. It's going to show you at each step where you're making wise decisions because you're going to experience wholesome results, and where you're going to experience unwholesome results, you're making unwise decisions. So if you are experiencing guilt or shame or anything like that based on past decisions that you made, and you're looking at that, and now today you're experiencing guilt and shame about that, then you look at that and you learn from it. What were the decisions I made back then that were so unwise, so that I don't make those same decisions again? So now in the future, you're not making those decisions, but you can let go of the fact that you didn't have that wisdom 20 years ago, 30 years ago. That's what's going to allow you to eliminate your guilt and shame today, that you don't need to cling to this experience and form feelings today based on things that happened 20 or 30 years ago. But now with that new wisdom that you have, that those things were unwise, you're choosing to no longer do those things, and you're becoming a better and better person. And now you don't have to experience the guilt and shame over and over and over again, because you can let go of those situations that happened in the past. And now you realize, hey, thank goodness I have this wisdom today, because I'm not going to make those decisions like that anymore. And now for the future, I'm going to make wise decisions. And now you can experience more and more peace and more joy because you're not making those decisions in the same way. So in effect, these discontent feelings are pointing out for you where you have not yet awakened. Where is the wisdom lacking? And now you use those feelings to look inward and be like, what is it here that's causing these feelings? What are the cravings, desires, attachments? What is the mind clinging to? And then when you uncover that and you can let that go and cultivate new wisdom, now you can get to the point where you don't experience those things anymore. So yeah, they can be used to help you learn, but you don't need to experience those feelings long term in order to learn. As you learn, you will essentially cultivate wisdom and escape the mind experiencing those discontent feelings, because your mind's no longer doing things in the same way. You've essentially upgraded the operating system in your mind to now function differently. Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, it looks like all of our stuff's back online. All right, so let's go to this next chapter, unless there's any more questions. This is a great discussion. Thank you guys for thinking about these teachings in the way that you do. By the way, each one of these chapters, there's a reference that takes you back to the original source teachings of the Buddha in the Pali Canon, so you'll be able to see that this is actually from his original teachings. And then typically I'm giving some details here that are going to help you to understand how to integrate this into your day-to-day life. But this chapter was so self-explanatory that I didn't even put that much here to help you. But typically I put a lot there to help you. So this book, now we're moving into the section about the hell realm, where the Buddha is now going to teach you what leads to this hell existence. And these are the same things that lead to the animal realm as well. So is there someone who would like to read this? Yeah, go ahead, Terrence.
Ten courses of unwholesome Gama deposited in hell. Impurity by body, Khanda, is threefold. Impurity by speech is fourfold. Impurity by mind is threefold. And how Khanda is impurity by body threefold. Here someone destroys life. He is murderous, bloody-handed, given to blows and violence, merciless to living beings. He takes what is not given. He steals the wealth and property of others in the village or forest. He engages in sexual misconduct. He has sexual relations with women who are protected by their mother, father, mother and father, brother, sister, or relatives, who are protected by their teachings, who have a husband whose violation entails a penalty, or even with one already engaged. It is in this way that impurity by body is threefold. And how Khanda is impurity by speech fourfold. Here someone speaks falsehood. He is summoned to a council, to an assembly, to his relative's presence, to his club or to the court, and question as a witness thus, "So, good man, tell what you know." Then, not knowing, he says, "I know," or knowing, he says, "I do not know." Not seeing, he says, "I see," or seeing, he says, "I do not see." Thus he knowingly speaks falsehood for his own benefit, or for another's benefit, or for some insignificant worldly benefit. He speaks argumentatively. Having heard something here, he repeats it elsewhere in order to divide those people from these. Or having heard something elsewhere, he repeats it to these people in order to divide them from those. Thus, he is one who divides those who are united, a creator of divisions, one who enjoys separation, rejoices in separation, finds pleasure in separation, a speaker of words that create separation. He speaks harshly. He speaks such words as are rough, hard, hurtful to others, offensive to others, bordering on anger, unconducive to concentration. He indulges in idle chatter. He speaks at an improper time, speaks falsely, speaks what is unbeneficial, speaks opposite to the teachings and the discipline, at an improper time.
This first one, right? In killing, there needs to be a certain amount of craving, longing, yearning. I want this person dead. And then there's a certain amount of anger and hostility in the mind. And there's a certain amount of ignorance or unknowing of true reality, lack of wisdom. These are called the three poisons or the three unwholesome roots. So in order to get to the point where someone's actually killing, there needs to be extensive amounts of craving, extensive amounts of anger, and extensive amounts of unknowing of true reality or lack of wisdom. So it's not the action itself, but it's the condition of the mind that's determining whether one is reborn in a particular place or not. And then the same thing right here, the Buddha's talking about stealing. There needs to be a certain amount of craving and longing, yearning. I want that thing. I can't afford it myself, but I want it. I'm longing, yearning for it. And then there needs to be a certain amount of ill will towards another person to steal from somebody because that person worked hard to acquire that thing and they need it in their life. Otherwise, they wouldn't have acquired it. And now if I take it from them, it's going to cause harm to them. So there's a certain amount of unknowing of true reality there too. So it's about the condition of the mind. Same thing with sexual misconduct. If an individual is doing these things, what the Buddha is talking about here is having sex with minors, right? This is having sex with someone who's protected by their mother, father, brother, sister, or relatives. That's a minor, right? If someone's doing that, there's a certain amount of craving, a certain amount of ill will towards this being because this child needs to grow and develop. And if we're choosing to have sex with this child, it's taking them away from that growth and development with their parents. So that would be ill will towards the child and towards the family. And there's a certain amount of unknowing of true reality. Same thing. Who are protected by their teachings. This is someone who's decided to be celibate and who's making their way to enlightenment and choosing not to have sex. If we lured that person away from that to have sex with them, it's causing harm to that person and the wider community because someone getting to enlightenment would be the very best thing for that person, but also other people because you could learn from that person how to get to enlightenment as well. And then who have a husband, wife, or partner, that's someone who's already in a relationship, whose violation entails a penalty. That's like raping someone, having sex without consent, or even with one who is engaged, right? Someone who's engaged to be married. If we lure these people away or we have sex without consent, this is a certain amount of craving, anger, and ignorance in the mind that is going to produce unwholesome results. So this is the bodily conduct that leads to rebirth into the lower realms. And then the Buddha is talking about speech, someone who's lying, right? Speaking falsehood. Once again, a certain amount of craving, anger, and ignorance. Someone who speaks argumentatively, or you're arguing with people. There's a certain amount of craving and anger and ignorance there. You don't realize like arguing with people isn't helping you at all. Think of every argument you've ever been in. You walk away feeling miserable, right? That you're so angry and hostile and bitter, and that person is as well, and you're damaging your relationships. There's a better way of life for you that you can learn how to have discussions and you can talk with people kindly and politely and respectfully. But a mind with craving, anger, and ignorance isn't going to be able to do that very easily. It's going to want to argue and be hostile and bitter with people. And then here, the harsh speech, same thing, right? And then indulging in idle chatter. This is just like talking with no point, no purpose. It's just like yada, 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 yada. It's not really a conversation. It's like broadcasting, right? If you've ever been involved in something like that, it's like, oh my goodness, when is this person going to stop talking? Oh my goodness, right? Maybe you've done that or someone around you has, right? So there's an underlying craving there that's producing that. And then ultimately the Buddha gets to what's going on in the mind that's producing all of this. He's talking about this craving, this longing, yearning. He's talking about this ill will or this hatred. And then he's talking about this ignorance or this unknowing of true reality. This is called the three unwholesome roots or the three fires or the three poisons. Whenever you're functioning through craving, anger, and ignorance, it's producing unwholesome results for you. And part of that unwholesome results is your day-to-day life is not going to be very peaceful and very joyful, but then also there's the potential to be reborn into these lower realms. That's what he's ultimately talking about in this particular discourse, is being reborn in hell, the animal realm, or afflicted spirits. If you've done these things in the past, you can change all of that, right? Like what you experience on a day-to-day basis and what you might experience in terms of rebirth isn't based on what you've done in the past. It's based on what's going on at the time of death. So there was a person during the lifetime of the Buddha who had killed 999 people, right? 999 people. And he actually learned with the Buddha and he actually got to enlightenment in that life, right? So he extinguished all this pollution of mind and got to the point where he was experiencing nothing but peace and joy. So I know no matter what you've done in life, you have not killed 999 people. I am sure of that. Having never met you, I'm sure that that's the case. So no matter what you've done in your past, you can train your mind and you can get to this point where the mind's enlightened and you're not experiencing rebirth into one of these realms. So this is the Buddha just helping you to understand what's going on with the body, with the speech, and with the actions that can lead to, the mind, that can lead to this rebirth into these realms. And again, that's not a real focal point in terms of rebirth, and that's not something that you need to be scared of or fear, but he's connecting his teachings that you learned earlier in the path about purifying your mind and training your mind and getting to this peace and joy. He's now connecting it to rebirth. So you can see that he's teaching you to eliminate these pollutions of mind to get to a better life now. That's what he's teaching you, is how to get to a better life now. But then he's also showing you that, hey, the whole reason why I taught you all of this is because if you continue in that way, there's going to be this rebirth into the lower realms, and that's undesirable and something that you'd be disinterested in. But as you see, he doesn't use guilt, shame, or fear to be able to teach you these things. He's just saying, hey, this is the natural laws. Here it is. Here's the way this world functions. And now with that wisdom, you make whatever decision you'd like to make. If you would decide to continue to do these types of things, that's a choice for you to make. But if you choose not to do those things, that's a choice for you to make too, and then you experience the results therein. If we continue to argue and be bitter and harsh and hostile in our relationships, that's what you're going to experience coming back to you. Mom, dad, brothers, sisters, they're going to continue to be bitter and harsh and hostile with you. But if you choose to be loving and kind and warm and gentle, and you do that for an extended period of time, over time, your relatives, your relationships will improve. Like if you've been bitter, harsh, and hostile in the past, you can't change in just one day or 1 week or 1 month, and then all your family members are going to change as well. But if you gradually train your mind to be more loving and kind and warm and gentle, over time, multiple months and years, you'll see your family members will change too. That shouldn't be the reason why you choose to learn and practice this path, but that is one of the results. That when you start being more loving and kind with the people around you are going to be more loving and kind because that's what you're putting out. So as long as you choose to be bitter and harsh and hostile, you're going to keep experiencing that coming back to you. But there is a better way of life, and that's what the Buddha taught. So any questions on this chapter here? Anything you guys would like to ask? No questions? Okay. So I have this program that I teach it in the morning here at the temple, but then in the evening I teach it from home and I live stream it as well. And a lot of people join there. When I teach it at home, I teach 10 chapters and we walk through it. And a lot of those students have been learning with me for a long time. So if anybody would like to learn more of this, you're welcome to attend this evening online, or you can attend tomorrow, where I'm going to actually be teaching more beginning teachings for people to just start out. Tomorrow I'm going to be teaching the mental discipline section of the Eightfold Path. The Eightfold Path is a core central teaching of the Buddha, and there's this mental discipline section where he's teaching you how to train your mind. This is a better place for somebody who's just interested in getting started with the teachings, is Sunday and Wednesday classes, because as you can see here, we're pretty deep into the teachings of the Buddha, being in volume 11. So I'm going to end class here by just thanking all of you guys for joining. Thank you for the discussion. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for your interest to learn and grow and understand the teachings of the Buddha. If you'd like to learn more, there's the ability for you to do that. And if you've just popped into today's class, that's wonderful that you came in. But now that you're here, you can know that there's other classes that might be more fitting for you. Or maybe you like this class and you'd like to come to this class. You're more than welcome to do as you please. If you would like to see more of the options that we have for learning, we have them on the bulletin board over there that you're welcome to take a look at that. We also have our website that you can see our website and all the classes and courses and retreats that we have there. And you're also welcome to come talk to me and I can help you get plugged into the learning resources, whether it's videos or podcasts or books or courses or things like this. I'm pleased to help you figure out how you can best get started with these teachings so that you can experience more and more improvement in your day-to-day life and experience this better way of life that the Buddha taught. So whatever you choose to do today, have a very wonderful and lovely rest of your day, and perhaps we'll see you next time. Take care. Sawadee krap. Sawadee krap. Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.